Cool. How's everyone doing? My name is Josie Carr. Welcome to Planet1wp. Zoom. So today I am going to mess around with Maschine, or we're gonna mess around with Maschine, because supposedly they dropped a new software because they dropped a new Maschine, the Maschine Plus. What is it? It is a standalone controller. They said they'd never go there, and they went there. So now what do? Do we say, let's throw away just the controller, or let's grab a Maschine Plus that's pretty much a standalone? We can sample into it. It's sort of like the MPC. It's the competitor. Will they be able to compete with the MPC? I don't know, yet to see. The MPC has been boss. You know, so we'll see if Native Instruments will get a piece of the action. I'm torn. But in any case, the good thing about that is that we get new software with Maschine. So let's take a look at this Maschine software. Let's see exactly what it does, right? We're not going to see exactly what it does. Let me stop lying. We're going to see a little bit of what it does. So supposedly it has this new feature that's called clips. So in Maschine, you work with patterns and you put your patterns together in the ideas, and then you kind of arrange them into a song. But you were kind of restricted with patterns because every time you wanted to make the pattern longer, you couldn't, because it had to go by the length of the scene in your arrangement. Clip says, fuck the length of the patterns, the scenes. I'm just going to be whatever length I want to be. And every time you copy me, I will be different. What does that mean? That when we copy it, we can keep what we have in the copy and continue to add, and it won't affect the other clip. What does that also mean? It probably means that we'll be able to record directly into one clip throughout the whole song. So I'm wondering if we'll be able to record vocals in one entire clip through whatever arrangement we have. I'm just going to do a lot of wondering today. Maybe next week I'll tell you if it does work. But for today, I've had a lot of questions. When you have groups in Maschine, how can you send them to a master track so then you can add automation to them and then maybe copy those automations around? Well, that's what we'll go over today. But the cool thing about this new update is that we could probably use the clips to then copy the automation that we do when we route them to the master track. I don't know. Let's find out. It's going to be a little crazy, right? Because it's new updates, so things might be a little scattered for me, but we'll get there together. So let's do it. Let's just take some random... maybe a track someone did, and let's just play around with that. We just need sound. So here we go. I'm just going to go into my browser. And let's use maybe one of those static friction packages and one of those presets, no tribe. Let's load that up and let's see what that sounds like. and then I'll play it and I'll check if it's loud because, you know, as I said, it's a new podcast, and last week I had distorted and I had to do a couple of things, and I was a frustrated user. Okay, so here we have this thing called No Drive, and I'm gonna hit play on it just to make sure it's not too loud. Is that too loud? Is that too loud? Thumbs up if it's a good volume. If it's too loud, let me know. Cool, so here we have this one song that is part of the Static Friction package here. And the name of that I just loaded is called No Drive. It's a song that's called No Drive. It's a preset. Okay, so this preset has, or song, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the groups that have been used. I'm gonna make it bigger. I'm gonna let you guys see the software. That would probably be a good thing for you guys to see that. There we go. Cool, so as you guys can see, my controller here, and you guys can see the software up here, and I'm just gonna make this a little bit smaller so we can see how many groups they actually use. So they use Group A, Group B, Group C, and Group D. And let me just bring up something else to see if we can help ourselves here. Cool. So yeah, we have Group A, Group B, Group C, Group D, and Group E that was used for some processing. Let's say we wanted to take all those groups, right? And if we look at the mixer here and add maybe like a filtering effect in the mixer, some reverb, and do some cool effects to all those groups at once, we really can't do it on the master track here. But today we're going to be able to do it because we're going to create our own master track. Okay, so I'm going to take Group H, which has nothing on it, and I'm going to label that group master. And I'm going to route every one of these groups to it. Okay, so I'm going to start with Group A, and I'm going to use the controller. It's a lot faster. I'm going to go to Group up here. I'm going to go to Channel here on the side, and I'm going to go to the output of Group A by clicking Group A in the controller. And I'm going to change it from master now to master again because I labeled it master, H1. And as soon as I find it, we can put it there. Actually, I have to add an effect to it first, so let me add an effect to it. So I'll go to master track here and let me add an effect to it. If you don't add an effect to it, it's an empty group, so you can't really use it. So let me go to plugin here, and I'm gonna hit the plus sign, and I'm gonna add, let's add a filter to it, okay? Cool, so now it's active. Before I couldn't assign anything to it because it was inactive. Okay, so now we can. So I'll go to Group A again, Group, and here you will see that now I have master as an option. And I'm routing the output of Group A into Group H. And I'm gonna do the same thing for B. I'm gonna change it to master, Group C, the same thing as well. D. And did they use E? Fuck it, they use E as well. Let's use E as well. E and E. Cool, so now basically all we did was we took Group A through Group E and we send the output of those groups into Group H, which I now call the new master, because that's the one we're gonna add filtering effects to, reverbs to, so we can use those cool effects they use sometimes, you know, and affect all tracks. And then we can probably automate those tracks, and with the new feature clips, we can probably copy them from one section to another section and then show off to our friends and say, we fucking did this shit. All right, cool. And maybe I won't curse as much and I'll try to tone it down. Okay, cool. So let's do it. So on group H, as you guys saw earlier, I added a filter. Now on the second one, I'm going to add a reverb of some type, right? Let's use a basic. I'm going to use the ones that come with Maschine just in case you guys are using the same ones. You guys can follow along and do the same thing. So I'm going to use the reverb on there. And then maybe on the third one, what I'll do is I'll use this strip here. That's the performance effect. And we can add the performance effect to that one. Okay, so I'm going to click on that and I'm going to scroll down to performance effect here. I'm going to hit load and you guys can see there. And I'm going to change the mode so it can be burst echo. That way we can change things by eighths, 16ths and so forth. Let me see if that's the one. No, let's use the stutter one. The stutter one is better. We can stutter it by 16ths or by eighths or by quarter notes. Cool, so now if I play this, this is going to play with that reverb that we added, right, on the second one here. So I'm going to just move it to the reverb, and I'm going to turn it down because we don't want to hear it. So everyone has it now. And the filter effect as well, if we turn it on here. So all the tracks are now being affected together, which is great, right? But what we want to do is we want to actually automate them, right? So let's see how we can automate them, right? Essentially, we could just take group H and automate group H, but why don't we create a group before we do that? Actually, let's do even one better than that. Why don't we create some macros so we just have 3 knobs to work with and we don't have to keep switching pages in the Maschine, okay? So I'm gonna just hit macro right here. And then I'm going to move my microphone until I get a wireless one and I don't have to bend down like a crazy person. I'm going to go over to the plugin here, reverb, and the output here, I'm going to turn on macro. Sorry. And now I'm going to hit shift macro, and then I'm going to turn the output. So hit shift and macro once you get to the plugin page, and then turn the one you want to assign. Okay, and now that's been assigned. So now if I play it, it's been assigned to that macro. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the plugin and I'm going to select the filter this time around. I'm going to move it to the filter. Okay, and I'm going to hit shift again in macro, and I'm going to set the second macro to the frequency. And I'm going to let it go. So now if I play it again, I'm going to stop it now, pick up my microphone so I don't hunchback again. And now we're going to go to channel here. Okay, and I'm going to just put it on macro. Cool. Let's go back here. Go. So now we play it, we'll have 2 things. Okay, now I'm going to stop it, and now we're going to automate some stuff, okay? Let me just do one more thing here for a minute, actually. Let me just check my macros out. Okay, yeah. I had to do the macros again. I reset them when I hit shift macro again. If you hit shift macro again, it would reset them for you, so that's not a good look. Okay, so if you set your macros and then you try to go to the macro pages and you don't see them, that means you hit shift and macro again. Once you hit shift and macro, don't hit it again to get out of it. Cool, so here we are. Now I am good to go. I am on my macros page and I can see my macros here at the bottom. It says cutoff and mix. And I also have my perform settings. So if I play, you guys can see what you guys will hear what I'm saying. Cool, so let's automate that now. So I'm going to turn down my reverb. I'm going to bring my cutoff back to the middle, and my beat repeat is off. I'll play it again. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a clip, right? So this is new today. Let's see how this works. I'm going to hit shift and pattern here. And you guys can see that when you hit shift and pattern, now you have a clip option all the way up here. And I can turn on a clip. So I'm going to hit here, turn on a clip, and you guys can see on H, it opened up a clip for me. And here it's telling me where my clip is going to be, what position, and the start of it, and how long it's going to be. And you guys can also see it in the software as well. Okay, so I want it to start on bar 1, and I want the length to be, let's actually make it, I don't know, let's do 17 bars or something. Okay, and then we'll probably copy it. You know what, let's not do that, that's too long. Let's start on bar 4. Yeah, that way when it goes from 7 to 9, we can do something there. Okay, now I'm going to hit shift in automation to lock my automation. Okay, and now I'm going to hit play. I'm going to restart it from the beginning, hit play, and start automating. Let me go back to my macros page first, right? So we can actually use the macros. Again, we're engaged in automation, shift automation. I'm in macros, and I'm ready to go. And let's play it from the very beginning. That is part of the automation that we did, but I did it backwards. So when I was supposed to turn down the effect, you guys got no effect. But you guys get the idea. The automation is there. Let's give it another go. Let's give it another go. Okay, because that was not the way I wanted to go. So let's give it one more row. I'm just going to undo that. Undo all of that automation. There we go. And let's go one more time. Let me make sure my macros are in the right place. Okay, cool. Let's do it. So that's one automation that we did from, the very beginning. I'll play it back, and we're going to just take that clip and we're just going to copy it over and then change it in the second clip. Okay. So that is one clip. Pretty much what I did here was I took all the groups that were being used that had some patterns on it, and I took their outputs and I routed it into the input of a new track, which I called the master, so I can add effects to that master track, like master filters or reverbs and things like that. And then I wanted to try out the new clip feature for the new update of Maschine. And I set up my macros so I could just have it in one page. Imagine switching pages, that just seems cumbersome. So I mapped the macros by hitting shift macro, or you can do it in the software too if you want to, by just opening up the macros here and hitting learn on it, and you'll be able to map them to any parameter. But I decided to use the controller. That's the whole point of using the machine controller. Things are easier, to do. Once I did that, I was able to have the macros there. I made a mistake and I hit shift macro again and reset them once I set them. So be careful with that when you do that. Once I did that, I locked my automation by hitting shift automation, and I was able to automate with the macros. I made a mistake. I had the macros backwards and I had to redo it. I hit the shortcut shift undo to start again and redid it and did some macros. So now I have a clip here that has that automation in it, and I want to copy that clip to another part of my arrangement. Okay, so again, I'm going to go into shift pattern, and that is going to open up my clip. The clip that I'm using right now is clip 1. I'm going to duplicate that clip the same way I would duplicate a pattern. Click on it and duplicate it there. And you guys can see on the software that is here, I can take that automation and move it over anywhere I want now. I could extend it if I wanted to, make it longer. Okay. I don't have to do it in the software. I can also do it here. You see, it tells me where I can start it and where I can end it. Okay. And here, where do I actually want it to start, if I want to shorten that clip or if I want to make it longer. Now we can go to that actual clip that's there and maybe do a different type, keep what we have and add to that. Okay, so we'll do it. I'm going to use the shortcut here and move over to the second clip so we don't have to listen throughout. And I'm going to move it over. Let's actually move. Yeah, there we go. That's much better. You guys can hear the automation is happening as well, and you guys can see it. That's the copied automation. Now we're just going to overwrite that automation, a little bit of it. We're going to add to it. Play back, it'll keep what we had and what we just added. And we can also take that automation again, duplicate it, put it anywhere else we want to put it after we duplicate it. Okay, so I actually duplicated a pattern, not a clip, by the way. I didn't hold shift and pattern. So that's, since it's new, you have to get used to that, not to duplicate a pattern as opposed to a clip. I just directly hit pattern and thought I could duplicate it and duplicated a pattern. It's new software like everything else. You just have to get used to it. I'm going to duplicate that clip, and up here you'll see that it says clip. So just make sure that it says clip up here. So you're copying the clip, not the pattern like I just did. Okay, so let's duplicate that clip. Copy it there, and I'll put it here. You see it's a duplication, and maybe that one, we can make it start somewhere else. Maybe there, and make that one different. So imagine doing that with like rolls or any drum pattern. I'm using it in this case for automation, but you can actually use it for drum program, anything that you do. And maybe you can just create, it's good for transitions, That was the hard part when you have patterns and you wanted to create a transition, of maybe the verse going into the chorus. You kind of need that pattern to overlap. So you have to create a longer one and then kind of go figure out the middle of that pattern to kind of create that transitional effect. Well, now you don't have to do it. You can use a clip and put it exactly where you want to do and add those effects in there. So I think it's a pretty cool addition to the software. It's a cool improvement. I'm wondering how it would work in the Maschine Plus. But then again, they said the MPC. So I don't know. I do not know what we're going to do with the Maschine Plus. But I have a few friends that bought it and are trying it. So we'll see what they think about it. And the friends that bought it are actually pretty much analog heads. So it'd be interesting to know what they think about it. let's do a quick review for you guys, and hopefully you guys got some information. Like I said, it would be very short and just kind of something light, as opposed to, you know, most of the times I do kind of heavy tutorials where I go in depth, but today I want to keep it light, you know. So let's do a quick review. The whole idea was for us to be able to add automation to the master track, which we cannot do in the software, you know. So what we did in this case was create our own master track by using one of the empty groups as a master track. So to make it a master track, the first thing we do is we open up a group and we add an effect to it, because we have to make it active. At the beginning of the video, I did not do that, and I was trying to assign other groups to it. It wouldn't let me because I didn't have a plugin assigned to it. So like, for example, H was empty. I added a plugin to it, which was going to be the filter I was going to use. Okay, I did that by hitting H here, going into my plugins, shift plugin, shift browser, and then going down to my filter and loading it, and it went on there, and you guys can see that I have it on the filter. And then I added a reverb, and then I added the perform effect, so I can also use, you know, this right here to create delays and things like that. Okay, so that's the first thing I did. I assigned my age and I labeled it master because that was going to be my new master track. Then I took group A, and then I went to channel, and I took the output of it. I went to my output tab, and I made sure I was group. Okay. In my output tab, group A, I assigned the output of it to the group H, which will be my new master track. I also did it for B. As you guys can see in the software, it's assigned to the group H. I did it for C, D, and E, because those were all the groups that were being used in this particular song by this guy, Static Friction, that did that track. Once I was done with that, I was cool with it. I went back to my track where my effects were at, my master effects were at. You guys can see I have the 3 plugins. And I made sure that my reverb, the volume of it was all the way down. Otherwise, we were just going to hear everything with a lot of reverb. And we want to hear it with a lot of reverb, but we weren't ready yet. Then I took the filter. I went back to my filter. And I wanted to assign these macros so I would have my hands free and I would just be looking at one page, and I had to flip 2 pages and figure out where was my reverb and where my filter was at. I needed something convenient. I needed just 3 knobs. One for the filter, one for my reverb, and the stripe here for my beat repeat. Okay, which is being used for the performance effect one, as you guys can see. I'll show you. I put it on stutter. So stutter lets me go from A's, 16ths, and quarter notes. Okay, so first thing I did, I went to my filter to set my macro. I held shift and macro, and I turned my mix knob, and it assigned it to macro number 1. I then moved to my reverb. I hit shift and macro again and assign my master mix, so the main reverb level I can control for macro number 2. For the third one, I already have this swiped assigned to it by the performance effects. That's one of the cool features of the machine, so I don't have to do anything for that. Okay, now I can go back to my H group here, okay, put it on channel and go to my macros, and I can see my assigned macros here. One was assigned to the cutoff and the other one was assigned to the mix of the reverb unit. And if I turn on performance here, I will get an effect. I will get the beat repeat, and I'll play it. This will be my mix. And now I wanted to automate, right? But I wanted to automate inside of a clip just to try the new features too, you know, to see what it does. So I had to create a new clip, okay? So the way to create a new clip, instead of going to pattern where you create patterns, you hold shift and you hit pattern. And you guys can see that it has the clip up here. And you can create it by hitting just like you would any pad, or by hitting the create button up here. And I created a new clip. And then down here, you will see that it tells you where the clip starts at bar 70. You can change that to wherever you want it to start. If you wanted to start at the beginning of the song, then by all means, you can do that. Wherever you want it to start. and the length of it, how long you want it to be. Okay. And then I locked my automation by hitting Shift Automation. I played it from the start of the song, and I automated a piece that I like. As you guys can see, was clip number 1 on my software. I said, that's pretty cool. Maybe I can copy that automation and use it again. Well, the same way, make sure that you are in clip instead of pattern like I did you'll see in the video, I just quickly try to copy a pattern and it was incorrect. Again, make sure Shift and pattern puts you into the clip mode. From there, I just hit duplicate. I selected the number 1, which is the one I originally did, and I copied it over to another place at the end. You can see it at the end. Okay, and you can put it anywhere after you copy it, by the way. You can move it around. You can make it longer and so forth. So that's pretty much it for being able to add master effects to a track in a Maschine, because you can't do it on the master track that it has, but you can create your own group to be its own master track, and there you can add any EQs or filters, effects that you may want. And with the new feature that's known as clips, you can actually automate something really cool and copy that automation over to different parts just by copying the clip, the same way you would copy a pattern. The only thing is, make sure you hit Shift and pattern, and you'll be copying clips instead of patterns. Again, I hope you guys enjoy the podcast. My name is Josie Carr, and thank you for tuning to the Planet1wp show. Ciao.
Like that, like that, like that, like that.